All right, this is 8th grade, Module 4, Lesson 21. And this one is titled Some Facts About Graphs of Linear Equations in Two Variables. So there are going to be times when your y-axis is not crossed perfectly. So if you look down here, for us to solve for our b, it's not a perfect dot. Okay, it doesn't land perfectly on a 2 or on the 3. It's in between. And you can't just guess, oh, that's instantly going to be half. Not always. So we have to still find what b is going to equal. Now we can use a formula and we say this is to find slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now I'm showing you this in case of the fact that they don't give you a graph to look at for slope. So I'm going to show you both ways. Now what you want to do is find 2 points on the graph where it lands perfectly at the corner of a crossing of those graph boxes kind of thing. All right, so this point over here is going to be -2, 2, and this point over here is going to be 5, 4. So those are the numbers I'm going to use to find my slope. Now this is going to be your x1, y1, and over here this will be your x2, y2. And how do you pick which one? I usually go from just left to right. The first one I hit is my group 1. The second one would be my group 2. So what is my y2 number? My y2 number is 4, and I'm going to subtract that from my y1, which is 2. I'm going to divide that by my x2, which is 5, and I'm going to subtract that from my x1, which is -2. And real quick here, these two negatives instantly become a positive. And then I just solve. 4 take away 2 is 2. 5 plus 2 is 7. All right, now just to double check that, if I went from this dot to this dot on the graph, I rose 2 units and I ran 7 units. So this kind of lets you confirm that that is your slope. Now before I can write my equation of y equals mx plus b, I have to solve for that b. And in this case, it's not that perfect crossing. So what we're going to do is take one of these sets of points, it doesn't matter, and plug it into this y equals mx plus b format and solve for the b, the missing variable. So I'm going to say we're solving for b, and I'm going to pick the 5, 4 combo. Again, it does not matter. This is my x, this is my x and this is my y. So I'm going to put the 4 here for y. My m we found was 2 over 7. My x is right here. It's 5. So I'm going to times that by 5. And so I'm solving for b. Now I'm going to go ahead and multiply these together. We're going to get 4 equals 10 over 7 plus b. Now to get b by itself, I'm going to subtract 10 over 7. And those cancel. 4 take away 10 sevenths is going to leave me with 18 sevenths, and that gives me my b. So now I have my m and I have my b. So I can officially write my answer in y equals mx plus b form. So y equals m times x plus my b. And you can leave these improper, that's fine. So this is your final answer for this first graph. All right, let's try the next one. Now again, we're going to find 2 points on the graph. Let's say that one. I'm going down to where it lands perfectly, and there. As you can tell, this is going to be a drop and run. But first, I have the point here of -1, 4. And this one down here is going to be 4, +1. To solve for that slope is going to be y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And I'm just going to give us practice one more time with this, and you're going to need to know this in the case that they don't give you a drawing where you can count the units that is different between them. All right, so again, this is my group 1, and this will be my group 2. So my y2 is 1, my y1 is 4. And I'm going to divide that by my x2, which is 4, minus my x1, which is -1. And again, these two negatives form a positive. 1 take away 4 is going to give me a -3. 4 plus 1 is going to give me a 5. And that is my slope. To double check it, I'm going to drop down to where I'm level with that dot, and I drop down 3 units. And I ran 5 units over. So that's how you can double check that your slope is -3, 5. Now I want to solve for B. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you pick. I'm going to go ahead and pick the first one this time. So -1, 4. So my y is -1. Excuse me, not my y. That's my x. Let me write that again. My y is 4. And I'm going to put it into my slope, which is -3/5 times my x, which is -1. And I'm solving for B. So again, I used this format, the slope format, to solve for my B. So let's multiply this out. We get 4 equals a negative, and a negative equals a positive. So this is going to be 3/5 plus B. I'm going to subtract 3/5 from both sides. They cancel out here. And 4 take away 3/5 gives me 17/5. So B equals 17/5. Now I can write my final answer. Y equals my slope, which we found was -3/5, x plus 17/5. And that's my final answer. All right, let's move on to example 3. Now, if you look at example 3, you'll kind of notice like, whoa, what happened to my other part of my graph here? Well, it was such a large graph that they purposely kind of chopped it off, but you still can count 1, 2, and so on. So my first graph is my first dot on the graph is going to go there, and then I'm going to kind of follow this line up to where I can find another good spot. Now, again, you could continue to do the y2 minus y1, but since I can count boxes, let's just do that to kind of make this a little bit easier. So we're going to go all the way up. Obviously, this is a rise. So I went up 5 units and I ran 1 unit. So my slope here is 5. So now I'm going to solve for B. I'm just going to pick this first point here. That is 12, 2. How do I know it's 2? Is because that's 1 and then that's 2. So that's the points I'm going to use to solve for B. So my y is 2 equals my slope of 5 times that by 12, which is the x, to solve for that B. All right, let's multiply this out. We get 2 equals 5 times 12 is 60 plus B. I want that B by itself, so I'm going to subtract 60 from both sides. Those cancel. And so my B equals -58. All right, now I can write my official equation. Y equals 5x minus 58. So if you do have a graph, you can see how we can do a little bit less work just by counting the units between the 2 points. Let's try 4. All right, now if you notice 4 goes through 0, 0. And as I've taught you, whenever it crosses the y-axis at 0, 0, that means B equals 0. There is no B. But I can find my slope from here. So I'm going to go up 1 and I'm going to run 3. So my slope equals 1/3. So this one's even easier. There's really no math involved here at all. So we're just going to say y equals 1/3 x. And again, we don't say plus 0. So that's my equation here. All right, let's go ahead and go on to the back. All right, this will be the last one I'm going to do with you, and then you are going to solve for the rest of these. All right, so if you notice, it doesn't cross perfectly on that y-axis, so I do need to solve that, but let's find my slope first. I can use any point on the line here, so I'm going to use that one and this one. So I went up 1 and I ran 3. So my slope is 1/3. So now I'm going to solve for B. I'm going to use one of these points. I'm just going to pick this one up here. This is going to be 5, -1. Or I could pick the 2, -2. It doesn't matter. Those are my 2 points. I'll just pick the 2, -2 since it's the closest one here. So 2, -2. I'll plug this in. My y is -2 equals the 1/3 I found times that 2 for the x plus b. Multiply those together. I get -2 equals 2/3 plus b. I'm going to subtract 2/3 from both sides. Those cancel, and my b equals -8/3. So now I'm going to put together my entire equation, and that is y equals 1/3 x minus 8/3. All right, so the next problems you are responsible for, that is 2, 3, and 4. So that concludes this tutorial.